Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Legal Talk. I am your host, John Mitchell, and we are here in the Now Media Network. Very happy, very pleased, overjoyed, in fact, to have everybody with us on the show today. If you're out there in the audience, why don't you go ahead and shoot me an email? Let me know, give me a call, let me know that you watched the show, let me know you enjoyed the show. Feel free to send in your questions because if you have questions, I've got answers. And here is a question that I have been asked many times, and I just got asked this a couple of days ago, and so I thought I'd talk about it today on the show, let everybody hear the skinny on what's going down with the IRS and tax extensions. Now, as I record this here today, it is early in April 2024, and it's people are starting to sweat, right? People are starting to feel that pressure coming on because the tax filing deadline here in the U.S. Land of the free, we're ready to have our tax filing deadline coming up April 15th. And so people are asking me, John, oh my God, what do I do? The company didn't send me my form on time. I don't have all my information. I'm just not ready. So what do I do, John? What do I do if I need to file my taxes? Deadline's coming up. I'm not ready to file yet. What do I do about that? And boy, oh boy, strap yourselves in because I got some good actionable information for you here today. We're going to talk all about tax filing extensions and what it is you need to do if you are not quite ready to file your taxes yet. So diving right in, right? Okay, so we all know that the default deadline for filing our taxes here in the U.S., personal income tax returns we're talking about, is 3 months and 15 days, 3.5 months after the close of the year. So count from December 31st, 3 months, and then 15 days. So we all know tax day. Everybody knows tax day, April 15th, right? So what do you do if you're not ready when April 15th rolls around? Well, the IRS has provisions in place that you can get an extension. Now, some people don't even need, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. Some people don't even need to file an extension to get their taxes in on time if they're not ready by April 15th. And here's an example of that. If you are a permanent resident of the United States, lawful permanent resident, LPR they call it, you got a green card, or you're a U.S. citizen, but you live overseas. Okay, so let's say you're a U.S. citizen. I myself, U.S. citizen, lived overseas. I lived in Mexico for 14 years. So let's say that you live overseas. Did you know, and a lot of people don't, but did you know that if you're living overseas at the time that the April 15th tax deadline comes about, you're overseas, not on a vacation. We're not talking about going to Cancun or something, but if you are living overseas and the April 15th deadline rolls around, you can have an automatic extension applied to you. You don't even need to file anything. You don't need to tell the IRS. You'll make a notation on your tax return when you file it. But long story short of it is you get 2 months automatic extension just because you're living outside the United States whenever the tax deadline came around. So that's one way that you get an extension. Another way that you can get an automatic extension. Let's say you're in the military, you're serving our great country and you're out there in the military, you're in a combat zone, right? You got sent off to Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever the combat zones are these days. Well, if you're out of the country and you're on deployment, you're in a combat zone, that is a 6-month automatic extension for you. So instead of April 15th, you are now due on October 15th, and you don't need to file any special paperwork. You're going to make a notation on your tax return when you do file it, but that's about it, right? You have to tell them when you file, but other than that, 6-month extension automatic. You did not have to ask for it up front. Okay, so that's first of all. So that's a couple of ways that you get an automatic extension, and There's really one more way that I can talk about that you can get an automatic extension. That is if you are in a FEMA declared disaster area. Now, that can be a county, or it might be your whole state, or it might even be the entire United States, depending on when a disaster is declared. And that will show up in the Internal Revenue Bulletin. I just saw the other day, this is 2024 as I record this, and we're filing 23 returns. And I just saw the other day, somehow they picked the date August 7th. Okay, so if you're in the wildfires in Hawaii, I'm sorry, this year, I'm used to the wildfires being in California, but it's Hawaii this year. So if you're in those wildfires out in Hawaii, you have automatically, don't need to do a thing. You get an extension and you don't have to file your tax return until August the 7th. Okay? So that's three different ways that you automatically get an extension to file your tax return. Don't need to, fill out any paperwork, send it in, nothing like that. So combat zone, living overseas, or if you're in a disaster area. Okay, so that's three ways. Now, if you don't fit in any of those three, I should say, situations, then you might still need to do a tax return, and you just don't have all the paperwork, you're not ready. Who knows? I mean, there's thousands of reasons why you might not be ready on time. Most of the time, it's because somebody that was supposed to give you a form did not give it to you on time, and so now you are just not ready. You don't have all the information you need to file your extension or file your return. So you get an extension. So the way that you file for an extension, you fill out the extension form, and you don't have to give your reason or anything. Fill out the form, put your name, address, social, and then very important, and we'll talk about this more in just a couple of minutes, but very important, you have to estimate. You have to figure out more or less your best guess, your best estimate, what kind of tax liability you're going to have due, right? You think, when you do get your information together, you think you might owe $1,000, okay? So you need to file that extension and send in the money by April 15th if you don't want to incur any interest and penalties. So very important, to do that because, as I say many times, an extension to file your tax return is not an extension to pay. A lot of people get that confused, man. So don't get that confused. Your payment deadline is still April 15th. Now, when you file that automatic extension, that extends you out. You used to be a two-step process. Now, you'd file for an extension, they'd give you 4 months, and then you file again, they give you another 2 months. Now it's just an automatic 6-month extension, and the form literally says that application for automatic 6-month extension, right? So if your taxes are due on April 15th and you file for the extension, that's 6 months, so count 6 months out, boom, October 15th, that's your new deadline, right? Now, again, when you're filing this extension, you need to be sure that you make an estimate of how much tax you're going to have due, and you need to make sure that you pay that, before April 15th. Again, it's going to get rid of, make sure you don't have any interest or penalties, and that's going to take care of you, square you away. Now, there is a provision in the rules that if you had reason to believe that you owed money and you just put a 0 down on the extension form, IRS can call that not a valid extension. They can go back and take that extension away and say that you owe taxes and interest and penalties back to the original due date, right? So they can invalidate that extension if you don't pay anything. Now, if you file an extension and you really didn't owe anything, that's fine, right? So they're not going to penalize you for that. But if you think that you're going to owe something, whip out your crystal ball, your Ouija board, whatever it is, maybe your calculator, abacus, whatever you do, figure out what kind of a tax liability you might be facing and go ahead and get that money sent in by April 15th. Now, you can file the extension anytime on or before April 15th. So you can file that, on March 17th if you want. You can file it. Heck, you could file it on, January 20th if you wanted, right? If you know you're going to need extra time, go ahead and get that extension filed. And, a lot of tax professionals will actually automatically file an extension for every one of their clients. Now, you can do that, and it's not really a big deal. I've seen it done many times, and nothing bad really happens. I don't, think that that's really best practice, but some tax pros do that for their clients, just automatically make an extension request, right? So you can file the extension anytime up to April 15th, which would be your original deadline, right? Now, don't come back and file that extension on April the 16th. Because guess what? If you didn't get the extension in by the filing deadline, now that's not a valid extension. If you try to do that electronically, it will just give you a reject code and it will not even go through. So you're not going to get your extension filed if you're filing it late, right? Now, if you're filing by mail, IRS has what they call the mailbox rule. So that means that if you put the extension form, in this case, let's give this example, you put the extension form in the mail before midnight on April 15th, be sure you have the envelope is postmarked, and be sure that you have proof of mailing, which would be ideally you'd want one of those little green certified mail slips from the post office. You fill that out, you get them to stamp it. Now you've got proof that you mailed it, and as long as you mailed it by April 15th, on or before April 15th, you're good to go, and the IRS is going to honor that extension for you. Also, I guess one other thing I could throw in here, not only individuals can get extensions, businesses can get extensions, and the basic same rules apply. Have to do the extension before the deadline, and you have to pay whatever you think might be the taxes due before the deadline in order to not accrue interest and penalties. So that is it, folks. That's the skinny on extensions for tax time. If you're coming up on, you're starting to sweat a little bit, you're starting to feel that knot in your stomach, you start to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to be ready. Never fear, don't worry. You can get an extension. IRS will automatically approve that extension for you, and this is the way it's done, and that's the requirements for getting it done. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for being with us today on Legal Talk. I am your host, John Mitchell. My telephone number in Houston, Texas is 713-333-0555. And my email address, jmitchell@cctaxlaw.com. I welcome folks letting me know they saw the show. I welcome folks to send me questions. If your question makes it to me, I might shoot you a quick email, or we might make a segment out of it and do like I did with these extensions and talk about it on the air. So thanks, everybody, for being with me, and we will be back after some commercial breaks.